saying we're live, so.
We are live. All right.
Showed up on your side?
Yeah, we're live. We're welcome to All Sides of Kennebec. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Karen.
And I'm Jeremy Leza.
And tonight we have Nick Isgro in the shared studio. So.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What is going on, my friend? Long time.
A lot's going on. Yeah, long time no see. Both of you guys, actually.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem. This time it's going to be in a little different perspective than it would be normally.
Absolutely.
Yes, this is the new
time.
I hate to use the phrase, but it's the new normal, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Thanks be to God.
Yeah, it's a overplayed phrase.
Yeah.
But you've been doing some new things.
Doing some new things, yeah. So, I'm in year number 3 here, real estate agent here in Central Maine, primarily in Kennebec County, Somerset County. Although last year, I got to say, in this market, and I'm sure this probably goes for a lot of agents who are out there just grinding in this kind of tight market, I sold from Portland to Orrington last year, and looks like I might be doing some stuff in Saco coming up. But again, primarily here in Central Maine, but
good for you.
For the right clients. And, I grew up, my mother drove from Oakland to South Portland every day, so driving's really not a big deal for me. We live in Maine.
Right, exactly. You have to be able to drive.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. But so you've started your own thing, EXP Realty.
Yeah, so EXP Realty, it's been an awesome journey, just an amazing company. Founder Glenn Sanford came from Keller Williams, kind of based it off that model, but really in a much more cutting-edge way, very innovative. It's a 100% cloud-based brokerage.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, so there really is no brick and mortar. There's full-time employees all over the country, and U.S., Canada, Australia, if we need them. But when I need help, I don't have to go to my brokerage during hours, wait for the IT guy who's someone who doesn't actually work at the brokerage. It could be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I zoom into the metaverse. We have EXP World and my little icon, or my little avatar guy.
Nice.
We'll go to the IT department. I pull a ticket, and next thing I'm kind of sitting across the desk from somebody else's avatar with a mic on, and it could be somebody in San Francisco, and we just talk back and forth. They fix your problem. You're on the way.
Nice.
That's awesome. I mean, this sounds really, really interesting. So it sounds like there's a lot of overhead that's cut out of opening up, I guess, your own business front.
Yeah, and so that's really the attraction, and I put out there, it's the fastest growing brokerage in history, particularly in U.S. history. We're opening in a new country almost every other week at this point. When I started a year ago, we had 50,000 agents. We just crossed 80,000 agents. We're projecting over the next 5 years to be 500,000 agents worldwide. And part of that is because we cut out all the overhead, and so they allow every agent to act as their own brokerage.
Oh, really?
So if you think about, real estate, it's a very personal business.
Absolutely.
Nobody really cares about your brokerage, to be honest with you. They care about the person. It comes through personal connections, personal trust. And so a lot of real estate agents, teams, and even some brokerages out there start to recognize the importance of personal brand as opposed to brokerage brand.
Yep.
And that's why if you look at all my stuff, I've been able to brand it with my own personal brand. And to be honest, the moment I started doing that, I really started hitting traction. And it's been just an incredible journey. Like you said, you mentioned that it cuts out a lot of overhead. Your typical brokerage is going to have 50-50 split, 60-50 split. I've heard some are some are 70-30 splits, meaning with the agents.
Right. Yeah.
So just so people understand, when you sell a home and that agent charges 5-6%. That gets split at the sale. Part of that, half of that, you're typically half, not always, but typically half of that goes to pay the buyer's agent.
Yep.
So each of these agents then have half of that sale commission. Then that gets split with the agency at some kind of level. Really, the highest I've ever heard of is EXP right now. It's an 80-20 split with a $16,000 cap.
What does that mean?
It means that once the company has been paid $16,000 out of the commissions, it's 100% commission to the agent, minus a $250 transaction fee. So no franchise fees, anything like that. Now, keep in mind, agents are their own. Every agent, regardless of where they work, is their own independent business.
Right.
So,
they're like an independent contractor. Maybe?
Right. So we're all independent contractors. So if you're a real estate agent and you're working at Coldwell Banker or Century 21 or any other of the big names that we know, you're really in business for yourself. You're just hanging your license at that place. So
Right.
what we find is a lot of agents end up ultimately just kind of renting their business.
Okay.
EXP is an agent-owned business, so we have equity ownership in the company.
Oh.
Every year when we close our first transaction, we get free company stock.
Oh, nice. It's like an ESOP.
Right. If we attract agents to the company, we bring agents in. Every time they close their first transaction every year, we get free company stock.
And that's employee stock owner program. That's
right.
For those that don't know what that stands for.
Well, retirement's a big thing. So
retirement's a huge thing, and what you'll notice is a lot of people in real estate basically work until they die, right? They're or they become, if they're not heavily invested in property themselves, if they're not becoming investors along the way, because every year you're kind of starting that clock over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it also sounds like it's a way to keep the cost down and a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the technology is second to none. The tools, the resources, over 50 hours a week of education, free.
Wow.
And the people who are doing the education are not somebody who's like been out of the field and just like an educator.
Okay.
The people doing the education are icon agents. These are the top agents throughout the world, really. So we're not just even exposed to ideas in our local market.
Right.
Ultimately, here in Maine, I think I just looked at the numbers today. We have about 177 agents here in the state of Maine. I believe I'm the only one really in the central Maine area. But, ultimately at the end of the day, the focus on agents with this company is important because it allows us to be better agents. We're sharing best practices. We're constantly trying to get that extra edge. And when you're in this environment where you're with people all over the country, you're not in competition with those people. So they're happy to share their best practices with you. They
don't have to feel defensive, like you're going to just take
it
their
sounds like
sales.
something that's really nice to pass on to the customer with it.
It's definitely made me better at my job. It's made me much more effective. It's allowed me to really shift my focus from just trying to figure out the fundamentals to really putting that focus on the client, putting the client's needs first, and making sure that I'm providing the absolute best service I can provide because I have the tools and the resources and the education to do it.
And you have a reason to, because you get to keep more of it.
And I have certainly this,
It's incentive.
It's incentive. And, when when you have an ownership in the company, that drives you to do more. A lot of agents at the end of the year, it's like, great, you sold X amount of $1 million in real estate. Here's your trophy.
Right.
I'd rather have stock ownership. I'd rather get the email that says, hey, we just bounced some more stock into your portfolio.
Right. We just
That's
dumped
awesome.
another couple $1,000s of like dividends.
Yeah. And the great thing is we're attracting a lot of talent to the company. Right now, or at least as of last month, EXP held more active listings in the United States than any other brokerage.
Really?
Yeah. So
I was going to say, I remember you posted something on Facebook. I think it was like part of your Zoom call or something. There was a lot of people in there.
yeah, and that's just our group. So we have a revenue sharing model. We have an agent attraction model, very much, I would say, in line with like, typical brokerage, for example, if just through interactions, if I know somebody that's becoming an agent, typically they're going to come to that person and say, hey, where should I put my license? And of course you're going to say, hey, you should put it where I'm working.
Right.
A lot of places give you the slap on the back, and that's great. Not only do we get annual stock awards on their closings.
Oh, wow.
But we get active revenue sharing off their $16,000 that they're paying into EXP. Keller Williams has a similar model, and that's kind of what it's based off. They have a profit sharing model.
Okay.
So the difference is we have a revenue sharing model. So we're not subtracting expenses first. And that goes back to that cutting out all the brick and mortar.
Right.
With EXP, 50 cents out of every company dollar is going back to the agency, to the agents that are helping grow the company.
That's awesome.
That
Instead
is-
of like
that's a big
20% of the profit.
Right.
That's a big incentive to sell. For them,
It is. And I think at the end of the day, the energy, I've never worked anywhere or with business partners where the energy is where it's at, where the enthusiasm where it's at, and where the just the true spirit of partnership and growth is there. And I think Glenn Sanford, when we look back years from now, will be viewed in the real estate world in the same way we look at Jeff Bezos for shopping or Steve
Sure.
Jobs for computers and things like that. If you look at the models of brick and mortar brokerages and what the overhead is and how they're run. And you look at the way things are going, look at where since COVID, people are used to working at home. I mean, that's not only revolutionized the housing market, which we'll get into when we start talking about market.
I would
data.
imagine it would open up more area for people to work too.
Yeah, it's revolutionized the real estate industry because that was a big opening for EXP. That's where we really saw the exponential growth.
Yeah.
You know, I became an agent right when COVID hit. So my first experience was being in an office for 2 weeks and then getting sent home.
Right.
And you kind of get used to that. And so that's the model. But, you know, if you look at what Netflix did to Blockbuster, look at what Amazon did to shopping malls.
Innovation.
Yeah. You know,
Streamlining.
EXP right now, I mean, they're at the cutting edge of innovation in the real estate industry, and I'm super excited to be a part of it.
So kind of, is this a different model versus like Coldwell Banker, for instance, in regards to like your realtor license?
No. So the real estate licensing is governed individually by the state. So in the state, the governing board would be the Maine Real Estate Commission. And so we have our rules and laws that are, and so every state is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not just go down to Texas and sell real estate. I would need to be licensed
In Texas.
in Texas.
But in Maine right now, you have to be, so you have to have a brokerage, right? First,
Correct.
when you first become a realtor.
Yeah, so you start out as a sales agent, and within 2 years, you can take your associate broker course and become an associate broker. So I'm an associate broker.
Okay.
At this level, a lot of agents, to be honest, stay at the associate broker level for kind of an indefinite period. You can see associate broker for 20, 30 years, and then they retire. You know, I will definitely get my broker license. I'm just the kind of person, whatever I do, I'm going to take it to the farthest I can go.
Sure.
But if you look at any agency, you'll see a mixture of brokers, associate brokers, and sales agents. The big difference is you know, you have your designated broker for that area. In Maine with EXP, it is a little different because we don't have an office. We have one designated broker for the state of Maine. She has a broker team. There's another broker and an assistant that's there. But the difference is she's not actively selling. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not competing with my broker.
She's just support.
And she, you know, EXP actually puts their brokers on salary. So they're making their living literally just to help us.
Right.
So,
There's no incentive for them to go sell over you because they don't make any extra money.
exactly. So they're there all the time. That's their full-time job, is to simply be there for
Right.
agent support. And to be honest, my experience has just been phenomenal.
It sounds it.
Yeah.
And one big thing that I had a few questions for is first-time home buyers.
Yes, sir.
Let's get into this a little bit because I'm
Yeah.
sure you know a little bit about it.
Yeah, of course.
What is this, HUD, right? First time home buyers? That's the HUD program, right?
Well,
Or it can be.
so it can be, you know, first time home buyer, depends on your finances, right?
Right.
So there's multiple programs. Obviously the strongest thing you could ever come into with home ownership is a conventional mortgage. I take it back. The strongest thing you could buy a house with is cash.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Probably just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and you know, traditionally a conventional mortgage is going to have fairly advantageous rates. It's going to, you know, that person's going to have a higher credit score, typically lower debt to income ratios, and they're going to have a larger down payment. Traditionally 20%, but a lot of lenders out there are going down to 3%, depending on the
Really?
person's
Okay.
credit,
Wow.
even for a conventional mortgage, which has been pretty neat because it allows people who can qualify for that but don't have that huge down payment saved up to go into this really competitive marketplace where we have now with a strong loan product.
Okay.
You know, other types of loan products you could have for first-time home buyer, and probably the most popular would be the FHA loan. It's not really exclusively for first-time home buyers,
Okay.
but it is a great loan product, and it's something that every real estate agent in the state of Maine is dealing with a ton of all the time. People use it because you can have a lower credit score. It allows down to like 530. You can actually go below that, but typically you need a larger down payment. But with the standard credit score, you know, the standard credits, it's like a 3.5% down payment.
Wow.
You're going to get advantageous rates because it is guaranteed by the federal government. But that does mean it needs to, you know, the house needs to meet certain standards. It has to have, you know, a main source of heat. There's things that the appraiser is going to go in there knowing it's an FHA loan.
And what to look for.
and what to look for to make
Yeah.
sure it qualifies for that program.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's a great loan product. It's allowed millions and millions of Americans to purchase a home that wouldn't otherwise if all we had was that conventional mortgage product. There's also the USDA Rural Development Loan.
Okay.
USDA.
Yeah, I know USDA.
Yeah, that sounds a little.
So the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
It's kind of weird. Buy some meat and get a loan.
Believes that home ownership, particularly in rural areas, helps make those areas strong. And if you think about kind of the logic behind that, like where does most of your food come from?
Right.
Probably rural areas.
Yeah.
Now, in a
Absolutely.
state like Maine, like I'll be honest, like Waterville, you're probably going to qualify for the USDA Rural Development Loan.
Okay.
Again, super
Good
advantageous.
things to know.
Yeah, super advantageous rates. You can finance up to 100% of the property, although it will have closing costs. I've worked with the USDA loans. I've never had an issue with USDA loans. The only thing I would say is that in this particular environment we're in now, which is just a super hyper competitive marketplace, it is definitely not the most competitive loan product you're going in for. Because at the end of the day, it's not always about how much you offer on the house.
Mm.
If I'm representing a seller, I'm looking at not only the price, but I'm looking at all of the terms and conditions of that offer, whether it's inspections, whether it's the financing. Because ultimately, we want to look at the maximum value to the client, but also which one is most likely to make it to the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And in a time where we do have to worry about houses not appraising for what people are offering,
Right.
because we're on an upswing in price, and you take a $200,000 cape in Waterville, right? Which already, 10 years ago, $130,000 cape,
Right.
now $200,000, 175, 200.
Great return.
We're, on average, I just pulled the numbers for the month of April. We closed April at 102% on average in Kennebec County of the sale to list price, which
Wow.
means on average, homes are being sold at 2% more than what the people are asking for.
Wow. That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for them.
Yeah.
It is awesome for them. And, it'll be
The
interesting.
sellers
There's
market.
not too many markets that have a good 2% return.
No,
Especially
so-
what they're asking.
Right.
Right. So typically, you think about buying a home, most people think, all right, so we're going to go in and, you start the process, you find the home you like, and you say, you get together with the agent and you figure out how much below that list price you want to put the offer in for.
Mhm.
Okay.
That would be kind of the normal. And then normally they would come back.
Right.
And you kind of negotiate. Yeah, right. You bar-
Right.
Now, list price, in most cases, and I just did a video on this explaining, there are going to be some cases if your agent is savvy on the market, understands the market, can dig into that particular town, look at the house. There's a lot of things go into it. But by and large, for your average, good condition home, asking price is the starting point right now.
Okay.
Really? Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, like going in to offer like lower than asking price would be kind of crazy right now. Those deals are out there,
Mhm.
but you have to look at the town. Like we had a good situation last fall where I could have said, well, yeah, here in Waterville we might have an average days on market of 25 days. That's not the exact number. I'm just throwing this out there.
Right.
Well, you got to know that Palermo might have been 45 days, which it was, I think, in August.
Okay.
So those are you can look at the county and that gives you a general sense, but when you're really working with a client and you want to dig into those numbers, you look at the town, you want to look at that particular property. If it's been on the market, for 50 days, well, there's probably some negotiating room there
Right.
because they're going to want to get that sold.
What
As
seems
opposed
to
to
be
10 days.
what seems to be the typical number a house stays on the market if it has good representation and all that?
So I can tell you that in Kennebec County in the month of April, I believe it was about 21 days.
Wow.
The
That's
month
quick.
before that, it was low 30s. Month before that, it was low 40s. So you can see
That's still quick.
the spring
It's
market's
declined.
coming in.
Right.
Speed right now. Prices, the sale to list price ratio was 100% month before.
Wow.
Now it's 102%. So prices more competitive, less days on market. And this is really a case, everybody asks, like, when is this bubble going to burst? What's happening with the prices? I'm going to wait 3 months and this thing's going to explode.
Right now, I don't know if that'd be a good idea.
I don't know. I think 3 months from now, the house you're looking at is going to be more expensive,
That's
actually.
what I'm
Right.
thinking.
There's going to be some, actually, I think for the next 5 years, going to see. And here's why. Unlike, back in around 2007, 2008, we obviously had, we had government policy That's your deal.
Yep.
Your deal.
Yeah.
You know, basically pressuring banks to do loans they shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
At the same
Absolutely.
time, the banks, you know, twist my arm, we'll make a bunch more money. We had, you know, Goldman Sachs and other big banks who were hedging against the loans while they
Right.
were giving loans. You know, so you had all the financial
The perfect
industry,
storm.
Incentives and everything.
right? So you have very exotic loan products, loose credit, knowingly giving bad loans. And I will say, and I want to, you know, having worked in the main bank industry for over a decade, you didn't see a lot of that with most community banks
That's what I was gonna say.
because they never let their credit standards go. That's
That-
why.
My parents have always said the credit union is a better way to go.
Yeah,
so.
credit unions, community banks, you know, look, I mean, right off the top of my head, you know, Kennebec Savings, Camden Savings, Cowhegan Savings. The only one that really got caught up in that, I think, was Gardner Savings, which became Bank of Maine, right?
I think
I'm
so.
not sure. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he might be right.
But, you know, in this case, it legitimately is a supply and demand
And-
problem. And you start breaking this down, okay? So just to kick it off, the National Association of Realtors has estimated that we're about 5.5 million units short to meet buyer demand.
I was gonna say
Wow.
you made a post about this just recently too.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people making comments, and I always think it's important to bring the data. Like, to me, I'm such a data-driven person.
Absolutely. It
Because
shows the picture of what's happening.
right, and if you start to piece it all together, you think about it. You know, millennials, us, you know, are in their 30s, low 40s.
Yep.
They're hitting prime earning years.
Yep, absolutely.
And believe it or not, despite all of the kind of anecdotes we've had for the last 20 years of listening to, you know, the older folks talk about
Boomers.
millennials listen to, you know, millennials are living in their parents' basement. They're not. In fact, if you look at even just the stimulus checks over the last couple of years, regardless of what you think of them, most millennials were putting that towards college debt. They were paying down other debts. Debts are lower for millennials right now. They're in their prime earning years. A lot of starting families. They want to own homes if they're not looking to move to their second home. If they're not looking to upgrade. So you have this massive rush of this full generation coming into home ownership. You have the boomers really are not selling at the pace of previous generations, and they're living longer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm not that
Well,
it's
the state of
negative. We
Maine
love you,
had-
boomers.
yeah, the
It's
state of
my
Maine
parents,
has-
mom and dad. I love you guys. You know,
Right.
I'm glad you still have a home, but you know, so you have a slowdown in that sale, and now you've had over the last 2 years a revolution in people that's taken people out of their offices and they're working at home. And every realtor in this area is going to tell you stories about clients that they're working with on one side of a transaction or another, where it's, well, I can live anywhere, so
Yeah.
show me a house. And there, and if you look, Maine for the first time in a long time last year had a net increase of people moving into the state.
Wow.
We've all,
Awesome.
despite all of the craziness in Augusta, despite all of the crazy
a little good news.
and tax situation that we have here, I think people really want the lifestyle. They looked at what happened in the country over the last couple of years. They want to get the hell out of the cities. They want to come to a place that has, you know, a 95%, you know, the highest safety rating in the.
Yeah.
Well, that's important.
It's always between here
Yeah.
and Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So people want to move to
For
these more
safety
rural areas and just the lifestyle. They you know, they can get outside, they can move around. I think people value that more now. I think, you know, one of the good things that did come out of all of the insanity, for whatever, you know, without making any kind of commentary on any of that, is I think people stopped for a minute and slowed down and said, what do I value?
Right. What's
Right.
important?
And
And I've done that myself too.
I
Yeah.
also know that millennials seem to be doing more in investment properties, like buying duplexes and living in like one side and then renting out the other. That
there's-
seems to be pretty big right now.
there's
too.
a lot of that. So you have this rush to the market. You have not a lot of people selling. We've had interest rates down in like the 2s, right?
This
So
is
the
pretty
money,
un- yeah.
so the payments haven't necessarily
unheard
been
of.
bigger on the higher prices. It's actually allowed for these higher prices to roll. And you know, and just to put this in perspective, we just ended the month with less. I think it was like 0.5 something, maybe 0.57 months of supply on the market. So
What does that mean?
So months of supply would be if we had no new listings, none, nobody selling their house. We simply waited to sell what we currently have on the market. It would take less than a month to get rid of it.
Wow.
That it's been less than a month for the last year at least.
And what is normal supposed to be around?
So
I remember seeing this.
So
in your
yeah.
post.
So a balanced market, what we consider like an equilibrium between buyers and sellers, will be 6 months of supply.
Okay.
Wow,
So
that is a lot different.
So we could have 3, 4, 5 times as much inventory as we have now, and you're still in a seller's market. So when we hear about the market crash, like, yeah, we might see little blips, we might see slowdowns, we might see some buyer hesitancy at the prices as interest rates go up. Right now, all I've seen is it's just thinned the herd a little bit. They're still going for it. It hasn't dented the prices. Prices are still going up. That's going to have to balance. But where I keep asking people, if you think there's going to be a crash, where is the supply going to come from?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And until someone can answer that, I'm going to say I don't believe there's going to be a big crash. There might be some pricing correction as the rates go up. But think about it from the buyer's perspective, right? So the interest rates go up so you can afford less.
Right.
So the price comes down. You're in the same position you were at the high price with a low rate.
Exactly.
You
It
know?
evens each other out.
Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting market. It's not unique to Maine. It's a nationwide thing. Obviously, I dig more into the Maine statistics and really into the Kennebec County statistics. But this is like a nationwide thing.
Definitely sounds like a really good industry and thing to be in.
I'll tell you, yeah, it's a great industry to be. It's a dynamic industry. One of the things I like best about it is, every day we learn something new. And you can talk to agents who have been doing this for 20 and 30 years, and they'll tell you the same thing. I think that's the cool thing, because every client is different. Our job is not really buying and selling houses. It's helping a client achieve the lifestyle that they want, whatever their goals are, their financial goals, their family goals. And you become really intertwined with these people. And you really, if you have a passion for serving, it's a great industry to be in. And it's one that will never leave you without a challenge, for sure.
Well, I know like the guy that sold us our house. His name was Mark Chadbourne, and we still get stuff in the mail from him every year. So it just shows how committed they really are.
Yeah.
Some.
Well, I mean, you figure, if you're not doing that, you're going out of business, right? I mean, it is a personal business. And I think that goes back to like
the customer service aspect of it.
Yeah. And what I found is that there's, when people think of real estate, they're not, to be honest, just thinking even about their family. Like, oh, Johnny just got his license, we're going to go sell with him. No, when someone makes that decision, I'm going to buy or I'm going to sell.
It's an experience.
It's who is the first person they think, who is the person that is top of mind? Who's the agent?
Right.
And the agent that is top of mind to that individual. And all agents are different, right? We're all individual people. We're going to attract to ourselves the right people for us most of the time.
Right.
Sometimes, clients can fire an agent. Sometimes agents can fire a client. It just doesn't work out.
Oh, yeah. So we all know the Great Resignation. It's happening with people resigning from their jobs. What does someone have to do if they wanted to jump ship and get into real estate? What's the first steps?
The first step would be to get your real estate license. So you have to take your sales agent course here in the state of Maine. There's there's a lot of ways to do it. I took mine through the Real Estate Learning Group. I still take courses through them every month. I really enjoyed the product, the material they put out. I think there's a lot of value there. I did mine totally online. Everyone advises against that, but I'll be honest, I took a lot of college classes online. That's just, I'm much more of an independent worker that way.
Right, you probably have to have the discipline for it and things like that.
Is there other?
It's about a 40-hour course.
Is there other ways to? Do they have like in-person classes you can take?
Absolutely, and that's how most people would prefer to do it. I think that's how most people do, or at least some kind of hybrid where you do some work at home and you then
Bring
go
it to
review
class.
it.
Then you go have like once a week you go to the classroom and but when they say 40 hours, like if you go through the material start to finish, it's literally almost exactly 40 hours. Like
Wow.
like even on your own, there's. I did not find a way to speed through it. It took about 40 hours. And once you have completed the course, you have your certificate, you have to register to take your test. That I can't remember it's ultimately it's guided through the Maine Real Estate Commission. There's a couple of centers in the state that you can do. You kind of go in, and I went down to I think it was Westbrook, and you got to go into like one of these like locked places. You got to empty out all your pockets. and there's not just real estate tests. You know, these are
it's like purview. It's like what, peer review or something. It's
right,
like,
right, that type of thing.
Testing environment.
And then you come out, and I don't even know what my score was. I just found out if I passed. Right? It's like and you're kind of like waiting there for the guy to look at you with like nerve. You know, all the nerves, and you're like, did I pass? You know, I passed. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It was a little tougher than I thought, only because I didn't. You know, you get there and the questions aren't always the same as the questions that you practice, but obviously lots of people are getting their real estate license. So I think if anybody is interested in the industry, you know, talk to an agent. Certainly can feel free to reach out to me. I love to talk about it. Obviously I enjoy it. And, you know, find out if it's something that you want to do. Just know, and this is just know you are going into business as an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of people think that they're going to work for someone else.
Okay.
This is a commission-only business. And at the end of the day, if you don't find a way in some amount of time to generate your own leads and to create your own business, if that's not for you, this is not the industry to get in. But that's why, like, the vast majority of people who get their license leave the field within a couple of years.
Right.
Or, you know, do, you know, a couple million in sales a year. And then that's kind of the level they're at, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But if you're looking to make this your sole career, you got to go for it.
Right. Go big.
Pretty committed. Yeah.
You know, commit yourself, go big. And if you do that and you just realize that all you have to do is be yourself. If you try to be somebody you're not, you try to imitate
it's not authentic. Who can tell?
Yeah, you're trying to imitate some other agent out there. It's not going to work because people can smell inauthenticity, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they don't like it. But if you just, you know, build your confidence. The one thing that I would say, piece of advice I would give that I didn't really have on the front end that I know now since making this move to EXP, actually, and kind of getting the mentorship that I've had, is do as much education as you can. Because there's a lot of fumbling out of the gate when you first get into this. It's not like you get out and there's like a training manual. It's kind of like, all right, go get some listings. And, you know, I was working for Don Plord at the time. Okay. And God bless him for taking me in. And Heather LeClaire at the front desk there, you know, she really keeps track of that office. And thank goodness for her, because my first year was basically making mistakes in my paperwork and having Heather, catch them and explain it to me.
That's awesome.
But then once you get past that technical part, you really have to understand that you've got a duty to that client. Like that client, like, and one of my first mentors, Steve Roy, gave me the best piece of advice ever. And it was, never think about your pocketbook first.
Okay.
Think about your clients. Mm-hmm. If you do that, you're going to have a long and healthy career. Don't count your commission until you've satisfied the client. Just wait and see what happens at the end.
Yep.
You do that, you know, you're going to do fine. But I find that there's a lot of great education out there with a lot of experienced agents who can teach you how to do that, how to put your client first in every situation. And the more education you get, the better agent you're going to be. And ultimately, if you're in it because you love to serve other people and you really want to provide the best service possible and keep getting better at it, the way to do that is not just experience, it's education. And I would just encourage people to put themselves in a situation where they're going to have access to that and take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point in time, after you pass, what do? You work under someone for a couple years?
So you're a sales agent at that point, and you need to find a broker.
You can't skip that part?
No, you can't skip it. you have to find a brokerage to hang your license. Okay. And it could be any brokerage.
Can it be like yours?
Oh, definitely could be EXP. Actually, I think if I were to advise anybody, to be honest, I think because of the specific education and technology piece, I would encourage any new agent to come to EXP. And in fact, I think particularly EXP, just because it is so innovative and cutting edge, and the resources we have are so overwhelming.
It sounds like a really interesting new market strategy that they've opened up.
It is. And so like my particular group, because we have this agent attraction model, you know, it's built out revenue sharing groups. And so I not only am, you know, it's not just me hanging out here. I have 7 layers of experience above me I can go to at any time. Awesome. And, you know, my particular group, the Agent Wolfpack, was designed specifically to grow as fast as we could. And to do that, Mike Sherrard, Connor Steinbrook, who are kind of my mentors. I came in under Mike and he came in under Connor, have put together such an incredible package of tools, resources, social media training. I mean, if you've never had social media, you never had a Facebook page, never had a YouTube channel, never had Instagram, literally video by video by video, teaching you click by click, showing you
how to set it up.
Yeah,
how to set it up.
awesome.
So we have a guy in the group who was he was a school teacher, a super introvert, right? Incredible introvert. Went to a new market. He's in Phoenix, and basically took his iPhone, went through the course for YouTube, started doing YouTube videos, and in the last year he's been able to retire his wife. He's doing multiple six-figure income.
That's awesome.
This is the kind of thing that the opportunities are there. And we have multiple masterminds every week. We really have in our group such a tight-knit group to the point where I feel I have kind of friendships where I'm closer with some people in Canada, Colorado, California, than I have been in working in offices here in Maine, not just in real estate, in my prior careers too. So, there's a real bond there of just help and security. So get back to the question though, you find a brokerage and hang your license there. And
so why, if there's any, why might someone choose another brokerage as opposed to something like EXP?
Well, I think there are people who don't have the confidence that they can do this, and they feel like they need to be in that office, with the broker over their shoulder.
It sounds like you got to be someone who can step out of their comfort zone quite a bit.
I wouldn't say quite a bit. When because to me, I'm someone who, believe it or not, likes my comfort zones. By and large, I'm a person who doesn't take a lot of risk necessarily, or I didn't. I would say, honestly, I'm a totally different person today than when I joined EXP.
Okay.
And that is because of the mentorship and the guidance, just simply on mindset. I mean, we have meetings that are simply about mindset.
Right.
And taking those risks and things like that. But I didn't have that before I joined. I wasn't sure that. It's like, geez,
I asked this question.
It's like, geez, I didn't want to give up the phone calls that were coming to the office because that's how I got half my leads my first year.
Okay.
And I was going to have to generate my own leads. But one, you do have to realize that if you don't actually get to a point as a real estate agent where you're generating your own leads and your own clients, you don't actually have a business.
Right.
You're renting somebody else's business a little bit. The other thing is, I remember when I first had the Zoom meeting with my who ended up being my mentor, Mike Sherrard, he believed I could do it. And I knew he believed I could do it. I wasn't sure that I could do it and be successful, but I knew he believed, and that was enough for me to make the switch. And once I did, literally, boom, everything took off. It really changed me as a person.
It's awesome that he knew to have the confidence in you. So
yeah, and but that's the culture in the whole brokerage.
Right.
Not that there isn't other, and that's not to put any other brokerage down. Look, I one of the things I love most about working in real estate, at least my experience here in Central Maine, in the state of Maine, is that 99.9% of the other people that we work with, our colleagues in this industry, are just amazing people.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of personality there.
There's a lot of different personalities, but at the end of the day, we're just there to. It's not personal between us,
Right.
We're each there to represent the best interests of our clients, and I think there's that understanding out there. And there's just some really wonderful people in this industry, and I love the connections. I love jamming out with other agents, to be honest. And that's been interesting too, because I came from Maine banking background before I got into real estate, and that was an industry where, as much as it's competitive, the bankers get together and we're always sharing best practices and ideas and things like that. We kind of come
because it makes the industry better.
Yes. Right. So what I notice is in real estate, in the local market, is there's a lot of people with their guard up, right? Because everyone's worried about, it's kind of like that scarcity mindset. Oh, well, if he gets a deal, that's a deal that I'm not going to get.
Exactly.
I don't operate from that mindset. I operate from a mindset of abundance. I think there's work for everybody. I think we're all going to attract the business that we want to attract.
Yep.
And I think that I think there's an endless sea of opportunity out there.
Going back to a point you made earlier, being authentic, you're going to attract who you attract.
You're going to attract who you're going to attract. And I think if so for me, like I love sharing what I'm doing with other agents. Obviously I'm probably more involved on every platform of social media than any other agent in this area. So I get questions. I get people will pop me notes and things like that. I love it. I love talking to people. I will share whatever I'm doing. I'm happy to share with a colleague in this industry, whether they work for EXP or not. I love sending notes of encouragement when I see other people in other brokerages doing really cool things. I send them a little note. I'll be on Instagram with an agent I've never met personally, but I see them, maybe they're down in Portland or maybe they're right here in the local market and saying, "Hey, you're doing a great job with this. I like what you're doing here." At the end of the day, what you said was right. It makes the industry better.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if the industry gets better, I know I'm going to grow and thrive.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting rid of that scarcity mindset, that lack mindset, and just understanding the abundance of the universe around us and bringing in what we want to bring in.
Yeah. And what?
Oh, finish what you're going to say. I'm
I
sorry.
was going to say, so you have a YouTube channel.
I do have a YouTube channel.
How's that going?
It's going well. It's a slow crawl. I'm up to, I think, 78 subscribers. So I'm trying to banking on that 100 mark. And it's been interesting. I've loved the journey into the YouTube channel. If you look back, I look at my videos now, which is funny because, I just started this like August, like late July, August.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just Nick Isgro, living in Maine.
Okay.
And I try to provide relevant real estate information. I just filmed a market update that will be out tomorrow. Be out Thursday. But I try to put out topics that are simply information. If you think about, most real estate agents, what we do, we get into this industry, and the first thing we do, I did it too, is you go out to a cold audience and you're like, "Hey, if you know anybody looking to buy or sell, send them my way." Well, why the hell would anybody come to me? I don't know them. That's a cold
they don't
audience.
trust you.
Right.
That's a cold audience. So what I found is that if you put the value in first, lead with value. Don't worry about what you're getting back from it. Just put the information out there, and you start to build real trusting relationships.
Building rapport.
Yeah.
Showing that your value. I do that, because I have the YouTube channel too. So it's very similar. So it's trying to show value in what you have to offer.
Yeah, and the unexpected piece for me has been the self-improvement piece, because you're doing these videos, you're forcing yourself to really get into the material and understand the material. It's actually made me a better agent to my clients at the end of the day. Yeah. And if I got 0 leads, 0 clients ever from YouTube, Instagram, wherever, but I'm providing value for somebody else that's out there that may never work with me, or somebody that does work with me, I'm able to give them the value. It's totally worth it for me. Totally.
You're also giving yourself more value. So it's
Absolutely.
It's all worth it all around.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, here in central Maine, YouTube is not as big as it is in other places.
Right. Which is weird because
you think it would be.
I would think with all the professionals in the area, more people would utilize it.
I think Maine has just always been a little bit behind.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
sure there's a saying about that.
Because I've been on Facebook that's where I started, was Facebook Live. So.
Yeah, I just took on a client today. To be honest, that's going to be a client. We're going to list their home. Then we're going to try to find them a home, and this came in purely through Facebook.
Wow.
And nice. but I also found, to get on the technical side here, Google owns YouTube, right? Facebook does not. So if you post a YouTube link on Facebook, they are not going to promote it. If you upload the video raw directly natively to Facebook, you'll get better traction. Yep. But honestly, the biggest success I've had as far as actual client contact and people reaching out to me about real estate has been through Instagram stories.
Really? Wow. Well, because the one difference
TikTok's picking up right now too.
Yeah, but like the one thing about Instagram stories and reels and things is that it just goes to everybody. So even if they don't follow you and things like that, they're still seeing your Instagram stories.
Yeah, I think people just I think that's, especially so Instagram in particular, which is probably one of my favorite platforms. I really like Instagram, but it is super polished, right? By and large, Instagram.
Facebook was smart when they bought them.
Yeah, your Instagram, you're putting out a much more polished product. And you can just see that through the photos. But the stories are your chance to really just be the goofy you,
Right.
you know, the dad that's coaching baseball, where I
Yeah.
was tonight before I came here. But then they might see me at the gym. They might see what I ate for breakfast, but then they'll also see I'm showing houses. And that's where you can really start to connect with people, is in those Instagram stories. I think it's a great way to just kind of get yourself out there, the true you, the raw you. People see it, they like it.
And they disappear, so they don't always stay around, too.
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
In and out of your hair.
more authentic.
It's a little bit more authentic in that sense. But to be honest, I like all the platforms.
You on TikTok yet?
I have a TikTok. I did one TikTok video. The problem with TikTok, and this is the thing, like, you can only focus on so many things at once. And I think that whatever you're focusing on, you should just double down and get really good at it.
Right.
And
Excel at it.
right, like right now, like I like YouTube. I like YouTube and Instagram. They're probably my two favorite platforms for different reasons. YouTube being much more of the long game. It's a slower build, but
Helps build your
Right.
following.
But the beauty with YouTube is that the material is evergreen. You know, outside of the market updates, you know, those are not evergreen. But like, if I put out a video about an FHA loan, well, hell, that's going to be good. 2 years from now, when
Absolutely.
I have more followers and someone finds the video, they can still go back and do that. But you got to get better at it. You know, my videos today, I think, are pretty good comparatively. There's really not much. There's nothing else in this market.
I feel you there.
Right,
I feel
yeah.
you there. I mean, some of the
But-
ones that I've made recently are better than the first ones that I've
Yeah,
started
I
with,
look
so.
at videos I did 3 or 4 months ago that I thought were awesome at the time.
You
I'm
look
like, oh
back
man,
and what am I thinking?
should I take this down?
Never
But
take it down.
But I know I'm never taking it down because I want, you know, I think and this is the beauty of this, is that,
Brings that authenticity.
yeah, people are with you for the journey, you know, and there's
Yeah.
people who have been with me from the beginning. There are people who have been with me, as you guys know, from long before
Long before your real estate.
I was in
days.
real estate,
Absolutely.
and they were there for my highs, and they were there at my lowest points, and I had some low points. But what I've learned is that now, coming around a few years later on the other side of it, you know, I mean, I was unemployed for 2 years. I had zero confidence no matter what I was projecting at the time. I can tell you I had zero confidence. I just had no direction of where I was going. But sometimes, at the time, it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
In retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think that's the law of polarity, right?
Right.
There's an opposite to
Well,
everything.
I think another way to look at it too is like when we're back in high school, we look back and when we're there, we're like, I want to get out of here. And then you look
Yeah.
back and it's like, dang, I wish I could go back to high school.
Well, you know, sometimes the way I say it to Amanda at home is like sometimes you got to be made into a puddle before you can rebuild into something solid again.
Yeah.
And there are just some amazing people out there. You guys were there, you know, when I was at that point and going through that. And I think people like that story. They're there with you for the journey. And I think the great thing is I have, you know, where are we all going, you know, 2 or 3 years from now? And it sounds so kind of more, you know, metaphysical or more profound, you know, from, you know, just being a realtor.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're not just a realtor.
Right. You're an individual, but you're a person.
You're a person.
You're a dad. You're a husband.
right.
Your friend.
Right.
Confidant.
And that's the beauty of, and that's why just the best piece of advice to everyone out there. And I don't care if it's in real estate. I don't care if it's what you guys are doing. I don't care if you're selling cars. Be yourself. Don't do this, you know, the fake shit, because sorry, can I say that on here?
Oh, you're fine.
Don't do that
I'm
stuff.
sure worse things have been said.
Because people get it, and people just want to see you. They care about you, and at the end of the day, you know, the people who want to work with you will work with you. And to be honest, I would say don't worry about being polarizing. Even
Right.
be polarizing. If you're not polarizing anybody, you're not attracting anybody.
Exactly.
Either. You know, the people, all being polarizing does sometimes is cut out the people who you never wanted to work with anyway, and they never wanted to work with you.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it gives them more of a
That's-
reason to.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
So, but let's one other topic I wanted to touch on a little bit is commercial properties.
Yeah.
How is the commercial property real estate around here right now?
Pretty good. Like I'll be the first to say I am not a leading expert in commercial property. I primarily will focus on residential properties. I think if you're looking at, you know, things like warehouse space, things like that, you're definitely going at a premium because you can't find enough of it. Obviously, We know why.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of cannabis being grown out there.
Yes, there is.
I noticed. It's like every time you turn around, there's a new place coming up.
So oddly enough, and this is a topic for another show, we talk about, you know, everyone's like, where's the work? You know, workers, right? Nobody can find workers. Nobody's talking about the fact that this is one of the biggest industries in the entire state of Maine at this point.
Right.
It's the biggest crop in the state of Maine
Right.
at this point. You know, there are people making good livings and good money in the cannabis industry.
Absolutely.
It'd be interesting to see what those numbers are, because that's, you know, it's not something we hear about a lot. But, you know, warehouse space, we had a premium. I would say, you know, office space will be interesting to watch. You know, there's a lot of people who have gone back to work. There's a lot of people who haven't gone back to work. So, you know, there's always going to be a place for a commercial. I think it depends on the type. You know, I think it's nice. We look at downtown Waterville right now. We're starting to see not just pubs, and that's, again,
Yeah, that's great.
nothing against restaurants and pubs. I like to go to all of them. I like to eat and drink like the next guy, but it's nice to see when you start seeing the diversity of retail. You know, where we have a flower,
Like the old Main Street.
like the
Right.
old Main Street.
Seems like everything's starting to catch up with the other.
Yeah, I would love to see. I would love to see some clothing outlets here if we could get some of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how viable that is. I mean, obviously the market will take it where it takes it.
Yep.
But we are starting to see more retail space fill out here, and I think that's really
That's
great.
exciting.
And yeah, super exciting.
Because just 2 years ago, if you walked any area from this office that we're podcasting from, you would bump into a restaurant or a pub.
Yes, and that was about it.
Right.
There's a lot of empty storefronts, but I mean, on the flip side, look at some of these places. I mean, Holy Cannoli has expanded.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
they
awesome.
have.
Now that they've expanded, Lion's Den Tavern is like doubling in size over there. They're moving into the old Holy Cannoli space.
Really?
They're going to have
I didn't know that.
both sides of that building.
Good job to them.
Yeah, great
Absolutely.
job to them. But again, look at you know, Jennifer and Erica.
Yeah,
They're
great job.
they're going for it.
Yeah, they're going big.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, go big, guys.
Right.
It pays to go big. And you know what? If you fail, you just get back up and keep going.
Yeah, failure is needed because that's how you correct things.
Yeah. You know,
That's how you learn.
a spaceship basically fails its way into space, right? It's just constantly being corrected. Look at it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good times.
Absolutely. But anything else you?
I think we chatted about a lot.
I know. I
Yeah,
think
we did.
We got quite a bit in. So
Well, one question. So, I from start to finish, like, what's the average time? I guess if you were to like try to buy a house, what's the average time it takes for someone to buy a house?
Well, I'm going to break that into two phases, and I have to right now. So, because there's the looking phase,
okay.
and then there's the purchase phase. You know, right now it could take a little while to find a house, especially if you're looking for the house you want. And I always encourage people to don't just jump into something you don't want. I don't even want to be a part of that transaction because you're going to get into that house and every little thing you see, you're going to start
your
getting.
name will get
And then they're
attached
going to
it.
hate you.
You're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate yourself for buying it. You're gonna get mad at
Buyer's
the world.
remorse.
Yeah, you don't want buyer's remorse on some, $150 to $300,000 product.
That's a big investment.
But with when there's no inventory in the market, when you think about it that way, it just takes time. You're gonna wait for that property you want to come on, and then when you do, well, you might be one of 10 bids on that property. So it takes a
Right.
while. Once you get through that phase, let's say you make the offer, it's been accepted. Standard loan time about 45 days.
Okay.
And a lot of places will say that they might be able to do it in 30. The problem when you start squeezing it tight is if it's a bank loan is the appraisers. They're backed right out. They're right out straight. So they've really got to have the time to get there, look at the property, get the appraisal in.
How many appraisers are around the area? I know Robert Nardi was an appraiser.
I don't
if he's
know
still
the
doing-
exact amount. He is, yeah. Bob Nardi's doing it. So a handful, and they're scattered around. But then, you need a VA loan. There's like 3 in the state.
Oh, really? Wow.
So you might wait a little bit longer for the VA loan.
Right.
Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to have you back on at some point.
Yeah, I would love to come back on.
So-
Thanks for having me,
Yeah, it was a
guys.
good chat.
Great
It
chat.
was.
Great catching
it
up.
Was nice seeing you again, man.
Likewise.
Definitely. But yeah, make sure you like and share this video. Also, like and follow all sides of Kennebec. Again, we are in the downtown heart of Waterville at a shared studio. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Karen.
And I'm Jeremy Lees up.
And again, thank you, Nick Isgro, for coming into the studio tonight.
Glad to be here, guys. Thanks.
Remember, a true patriot questions everything. Feels weird saying that at the end of